Game 3 of the World Series is about to start. And of course, the Dodgers fans, they boo George Springer. Why? Because of 2017. There are so many reasons to hate. And this is coming with a lot of love from an Astros fan, George Springer, other than what happened in 2017. We'll talk about this on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chansey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros. We hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. Brett Chansey is my co-host. He'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Go and make us your first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, go and check us out. We hope that you help us get to 16,000 subscribers and beyond that to 20,000 subscribers. We'll be here all off season. We're going to go ahead and start something pretty cool pretty soon. It's be called the Everydayer Club. So we'll talk about that down the road, but it's going to have a newsletter. And so we're really excited about it, but we'll give you some more detail. But thank you for becoming an everydayer. Between Brett and I, we have over 18 years of podcasting experience, and we'll be here all off season, whatever happens. But right now, all the talk right now is about this guy right here, George Springer. Yes, this is George Springer, even though it doesn't really look like him. He's getting booed. He's getting thrown at, and it's like he's still a member of the Houston Astros. And it seems like everybody hates George Springer. And I don't hate George Springer, even though he's not on the Astros anymore. Of course, when we're playing him, you don't like him, but I'm going to give y'all 4 reasons outside of what happened in 2017 why you should not like George Springer. And like I said, this is coming with a lot of love because George Springer is one of my favorite players. Of course, I've got that up there. I've got the DJ Springer bobblehead. I've got a whole bunch of Springer stuff all around. He's one of my favorite Astros players of all time. It was a shame that he had to leave, but there are so many different reasons why opposing fans should hate George Springer outside of what happened in 2017. But that's what all the focus is on. And so we'll talk about that next on the Locked On Astros podcast. So the number one reason I think that fans should hate George Springer is the fact that he's not on your team. He's a really good player. Yes, he had a couple down seasons recently, but he's still a pretty good player. I know this past year he kind of had a comeback season, so to speak, and I know that a lot of people were down on him. I know that I think Chris Bassett said that a lot of people counted him out, but he showed that this year that he is still capable of being that player that he was in the past. And George Springer is a guy that could be a leadoff threat. He can hit home runs. He has 63 career leadoff home runs, but he's a guy that when he's on, he could be a double threat. He could play great defense. He can steal some bases. He can hit some home runs. And he's just got that good personality. There's a reason why they made this bobblehead. He was the life of the clubhouse. He was DJ Springer, and he was the guy that started the whole DJ of the clubhouse. But if he's not on your team, of course, you're not going to like him. There's a lot of players that if they're not on your team, you're not going to like them. They rub people the long way. He's energetic. He's just like full of energy, and he's got all that. But it's just like when he's not on the team, of course you're not going to like him. But if you look at his past couple years, outside of this past season where he batted .309 with a .959 OPS, which was his best of his career. His second best of his career. 2019, he had a .974 OPS with the Houston Astros. But he had 32 home runs, 84 RBIs, 18 stolen bases. But he's also a guy that can get those clutch hits. The only thing he seems to struggle with is I looked up earlier, but I went away from it, but he basically does everything. Runners in scoring position. He just gets it all done. All the clutch stats. There's only one clutch stat that he did not have. I'll look that up in a second. But in the past couple years, he's kind of taken a downturn. Batted 220 last year, 19 home runs. The year before that, 258 with 21 home runs. The year before that, 267 with 25 home runs. And the year before that, 264 with 22 home runs. But he was still consistent for the most part. He still had those stolen bases. He was still that all-around type of player. He just wasn't really doing it what he did this year. And so if he's not on your team, of course, you should not like him. He's got the personality. He's got that swagger. He's got that clutch ability. He's got that ability to help the other team win, including the leadoff home runs where he has 63. I'm looking at clutch stats real quick right here. Late and close is the stat that he struggles in. In his career, he's batting 226 with a 699 OPS with late and close, but 2 outs, runners in scoring position, he's batting 261 with 875 OPS. Tie game, he's got 831 OPS within 1 run, 826 within 2 runs, 837 within 3 runs, 823. And if they're ahead, he's got 892 OPS. When they're behind, I guess he struggled a little bit with the 758 OPS. But for the most part, all the clutch stats, you have George Springer there. High leverage, he's got a 776 OPS. Medium leverage, he's your guy, 886 OPS. So, of course, if he's not on your team, sure, you should hate George Springer. He's also got that foundation. I don't know if he still does it, but I know with the Houston Astros, he had the SAY foundation where it's for kids that stutter. He had a bowling event every year. So that just shows what type of person he is, and the fact that he suffers from stuttering himself, and he's as energetic and as vocal as he is. So it just shows what type of personality he is. So he's a good all-around teammate, a good around person. So yeah, sure, you should hate George Springer. You should definitely bean him every time he comes up. And yes, I know I've seen all this crap online about him wearing an Apple Watch. Is that true? Who cares? I don't have a skin in this. The Astros are not in the World Series. So why do all these other teams that were not affected have their skin in this game? Like all these players that are hitting George Springer right now, they weren't part of the 2017 season. So just because George Springer's not on your team, that's one reason why you should hate him. Plus, you know what? A very good reason we'll talk about next. We're going to do a long segment on playoff moments because there's a lot of teams that should hate George Springer, and the Dodgers are one of them. We'll talk about that next. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Hey guys, NFL season is here and Texans, they got to win. Are you super excited about that? And there's nothing better than being at the stadium, watching the Texans, watching the Rockets, watching the Astros once they start playing again, surrounded by the fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can sometimes be a little bit frustrating. The hassle, you got the queues, the login screens, and the prices jumping at checkout. We all know what it's like. It's just frustrating. That's why Brett and I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic Game Time tickets delivered on times and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the prices you see is what you pay. So I pulled up Game Time, and I see a couple taps. I saw amazing game deal tickets, and I'm talking about the Texans, Rockets, whatever you want. Games as low as $100. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go and subscribe to us. Go and make it first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, go and check us out. And don't let this title confuse you. I don't think Astros fans. I think in our hearts we will forever love George Springer because he brought the Astros. I know there's many players, but he was part of the reason why the Astros won the World Series in 2017. And I know that Justin Verlander, Jose Altuve, there's many different reasons why the Astros got to where they were. But I'm just kind of playing with this, having some fun with this. The fact that George Springer is in the news again. And because he's in the news, of course, the 2017 season. So since his number is 4, I came up with 4 real reasons you should hate George Springer that have nothing to do with 2017. So there are a few teams that should hate George Springer. And we'll talk about some of the clutch moments that he's had in the postseason. But the Dodgers, obviously for other reasons, but they should hate George Springer because in the 2017 World Series, Game 2 and Game 7, don't forget that Springer hit a 11th inning go-ahead home run off of Brandon McCarthy, and that swung the entire momentum of that series. And in Game 7, he doubled and then launched a 2-run homer in the second inning that silenced Dodger Stadium early. So just for that reason, not for anything else, Dodgers fans should hate George Springer. Nothing else. Of course, the Yankees. We love Yankees fans, don't we? But who can forget that in the 2019 Game 4 of the ALCS, you have that 3-0 home run off of Masahiro Tanaka. It was in the 3rd inning that really flipped Yankee Stadium from roaring to silence. Of course, he had that awesome bat flip and the reaction towards the Astros dugout. Of course, that's going to anger Yankees fans. But since that series, George Springer has been booed loudly at Yankee Stadium. So Yankees fans should hate George Springer for that reason and that reason alone. We all hate the Red Sox. Alex Bregman went to go play for the Red Sox, but remember in 2018 ALCS Game 1 and multiple other games, in Game 1 of the 2018 ALCS, he ripped a 2-run single early in the game that gave Houston a lead en route to win that game in Fenway. But also since joining the Blue Jays, he's been a menace to the Red Sox, and he's hit leadoff home runs against Evaldi, Chris Sale in the regular seasons, and Fenway crowds have been known to groan when Springer comes up. Maybe boo a little bit, but that's why you should hate George Springer, not because of any other reason. And of course, Mariners fans. Mariners fans, probably because of his time with the Houston Astros, but also Mariners probably thought they were going to World Series this year. This was their chance. But then you have that home run that basically clinched the World Series in 2025 in Game 7. But don't forget, in 2022, he knocked Seattle out of the wild card spot with a late season homer in the Rogers Center as well. So Mariners fans should hate George Springer for that reason. Of course, there's other teams like the Rays, and there's many other reasons, but just because of what he's done in the playoffs. And if you look, let me look up what he's done overall in the postseason. This is combined with the Astros and the Blue Jays. He's batted .267 with an .884 OPS with 23 home runs, 47 RBIs. He has 4 hit by pitches. 2 of them are this year. One of them was in 2022. And one of them was in 2020. Before that, he was not hit by any pitches. So I guess all of a sudden Springer has this magnet in the postseason. Who would have known? It's just crazy how that happens. So Springer has become the face of what happened in 2017, but he was not the face. He was a guy that used it. Sure, we'll talk about that a little bit if we get to it. If not, it's not a big deal. But with the Astros, he did have some success. He played a lot of games. I went away from it, but in you got 2019 was his best season with the Astros. I believe actually 2017. No, it's 2020. No, I said it right. Actually, he had 2017, he had 6 home runs with 9 RBIs. Then 2018, he had 4 home runs with 8 RBIs. And then 2019, he had 4 home runs with 8 RBIs. 2020, 4 home runs with 10 RBIs. And in his first season in playoffs, he had 1 home run. So overall, he had pretty good amount of his 23 home runs. He had 19 of his career playoff home runs with the Houston Astros. So he had a lot of home runs, including I believe it was a 5-game streak in the playoffs with home runs. So yeah, you should hate George Springer for what he can do against you in the playoffs, not because of anything else. By the way, I'm just having fun with this, guys. There's so much we can go on this. So I already talked about that one. In 2017, Game 7 versus Dodgers, he had a 2-run homer that I already talked about that one. In 2017, Game 5, we all remember Game 5. That gave us all ulcers, and we all probably didn't sleep very well that night. But he went 2 for 3 with a home run, scored 3 runs in one of the most dramatic games in series history. And Clement, he's one of the guys who's playing with George Springer right now. He says that he was asked, well, what do you think about opposing teams booing George Springer? And he says, well, it's great. When they're booing him, I get up and in the dugout and I boo too, because it seems to motivate him. It seems to get him going. So continue to booing him. He's like Jose Altuve. He seems to feed off that energy. And so Clement says that he actually watched that series, and that was one of the best World Series he's ever watched play. And Game 5 was probably one of the best things. And I actually sold my tickets to that game, and I forever regret that. But at the same time, that was probably one of the most stressful games. So there's a whole bunch of different Game 4 versus Dodgers, he had a solo home run against Alex Wood. In Game 6, he had a home run, making his 4th consecutive World Series game with the lawn ball. Then, of course, Game 7, he had another home run, which was 5 straight games in the World Series. 2018, Game 3 versus the Indians for an ALDS. He had 2 home runs to complete a sweep. I remember that series where I believe it was Trevor Bauer or Mike Clevenger. One of the guys said the Astros offense is not that good and it's not good enough for something. So I think the Astros really showed them at that time, but there's a lot of great moments. Even against the Nationals, they went on to lose that series, but he had a late homer that made him first player to hit in 5 straight World Series games in 2019. But basically, he's a clutch guy in the postseason. And if you need somebody to get you some home runs, get you a single, get you a big double, it's George Springer. So if he's not on your team, sure, hate him. Go ahead and hate him all you want. But you don't have to throw at him, whether it's on purpose or not. Whatever, we know. But guys, we'll go ahead and continue talking about this. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Go and make us your first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, go and check us out. And inadvertently already gave up a lot of my other stuff. I gave up the clutch stats already, and that he's a great guy and great teammate. I realized that during the commercial break earlier. But I want to hear some of y'all's reasons. What are some reasons why opposing fan bases should hate George Springer? And then why do you like George Springer? Even though he's not on the Astros team right now, what are some things to like about George Springer? I will tell you all a story, and I think I've told this on the podcast before. I remember back then I was not a season ticket holder. This was right when the Astros were going through the process, and the fact that they were losing 100 plus games. And I got a call from the season ticket rep, and he said, "Hey, Eric, what would it take for you to buy season tickets?" And I literally said, "You to bring up this kid down in AAA. His name is George Springer. Once you do that, I'll go ahead and buy season tickets." And I did. The next year, I bought season tickets, and then I ended up splitting it with two other people. But I had season tickets for 2017, 2018, 2019. I think I dropped them in 2020, I believe, if I remember correctly, right before COVID, ironically. But maybe I had them in 2016, I think. I want to say I had them in 2016. But it was a great time. But George Springer was that light. Like the fact that the team was not playing good, but hey, there's this kid down in AAA, this AA. He could be the next best thing. That's why I always loved George Springer, for his energy, for his passion. The fact that I remember interviewing AJ Hinch one time. We used to have something called the Bloggers Roundtable. I used to write for Climbing Towers Hill. And so we got to meet him, Jeff Luno, and that was a cool experience back then. But I remember AJ Hinch telling us, like, it's not about telling George Springer not to run into walls, because that's what he's going to do. He's just full of energy. He's going to go out there and give 110%, but it's to teach him how to run into walls. And so how to do it the correct way. And so that's just the type of player that George Springer was. And same thing with Jose Altuve, same thing with Carlos Correa. These guys will do anything it takes to win. And for them to be the face of 2017, it's crazy. And yes, I'm sure that Correa did use the trash can scheme. I know that Springer did. We'll talk about how many times they used it. But just looking at overall in his career, George Springer has still been a great player with or without the Banes. He had a great season in 2017, but he's also had a great season this past year. I know a lot of people could be pointing, the Apple Watch. It looked like when he got hit the other day, he's wearing Apple Watch. Who knows? Maybe it's some other type of watch. We don't know what that is. And that all eyes are going to be on him. He's not going to wear an Apple Watch out there. There has to be some type of logical explanation for that. Or is somebody just doing some type of digital manipulation to make that there? But I'm sure that's legit and everything. But let's see if there's any reason. Springer may beat the Dodgers by himself. Love your background. Springer fan, always will be. Go Stros. And Emilio said this earlier, and I agree with this. When he plays against us, he's not a friend, but he's okay. Wish him best. And he loves the Dodgers. That's what he's saying here. But no, we don't love the Dodgers. But same time, 2017 was many years ago. Like I said yesterday, my stepdaughter asked the other day, she doesn't know anything about baseball, but she was saying, well, why do people hate Astros and ex-Astros players so much? And I had to explain the trash can scheme and everything. And she's like, that was back in 2017. Why are people so worried about it? And even the Blue Jays manager is like, let it go. Why can't we just let this go? And Snyder says that he's been doing this for a long time, and these fans get on everybody. They're legit, which is funny because I don't think they're sold out their place for the first couple of rounds of playoffs for whatever reason. They like to go get on the opposing teams. It's funny that they have guys on their team that they used to boo too. So it's kind of just comes with their territory. But George is just pretty well versed in hearing it for whatever reason. And so basically, George Springer has come to LA ready to get booed, and he's ready to respond. We've seen him and Altuve respond multiple times despite what happened. So there's plenty of reasons to hate George Springer as an opposing fan. You don't have to always resort to he's cheating. He's always a cheater. Well, yes, but Eric, what did he do in 2017? Well, let's go and look at what he did in 2017. And I know Tony Adams, we all remember Tony Adams. He went and listened to all the different bangs and everything, but where is it? I had it up here earlier. But if you're looking at the sign stealing scandal website, you have several. He only, I think, looked at 58 games. And you have some players that used it way more than George Springer. Marwin Gonzalez used it 18.2% of his at-bats. You had Alex Bregman use it 16% of his time. The godfather of this whole scandal used it 18%, Carlos Beltran. And then you had Jake Marisnick, 22.8%, Tyler White, 26.4%. Granted, it was a small sample size. J.D. Davis, 28.6%. Granted, small sample size. And some other guys that used it a small sample size. But Josh Reddick only used it 3.7%. And everybody keeps on booing Jose Altuve. He only used it reportedly 2.7% of the time. And if you look, he had 886 pitches that he saw during this time. There was only 24 bangs because he said, no, I don't want this, guys. Sometimes they accidentally banged during his at-bats, and he said, no, stop. I don't want this. Stop booing Jose Altuve. Now we're talking about George Springer's. He in 972 total pitches, there was a total of 140 bangs. 14.4% were bangs, I guess. So did he use it? Sure. Does that mean that he was the face of the cheating scandal? No. I just wish people would just let it go. Yeah, they cheated in 2017. We acknowledge this. There's other reasons why you should hate the Houston Astros and hate George Springer. Because he's a good player and the Astros have been a good franchise for a while. Even in a season where Astros fans are frustrated in 2025, they still had 87 wins, which means they still could potentially have a good team next year. So this was all in fun. I don't hate George Springer. Astros fans, I don't think they hate George Springer. There's some Astros fans that probably were turned off after the 2017 season, but I think most fans, they still have, as long as they're not playing the Blue Jays, they still keep an eye on what George Springer is doing. And I just don't want Dodgers fans and Dodgers pitchers to be throwing at George Springer, because what he can do for the Blue Jays and what he represents for Major League Baseball. Yeah, you have Shohei Ohtani. What he could do is great. But for the most part, George Springer has been pretty much mini Mr. October for a while now. So I just want this guy to be protected. And it seems like he keeps on getting targeted, whether it's on purpose or not. He doesn't deserve it. If it's just part of the game, sure, you're going to get hit. Before 2020, he never got hit by a pitch in the playoffs. All of a sudden, 4 times since. Quink and dink, who knows? But this was all in fun, guys. We don't hate George Springer, and we wish the Blue Jays success because we are not rooting for Dodgers, and we'll see what happens. But guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube, Go and subscribe to us. Go and make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, go and check us out, and go and check out MLB Game Night throughout till the final out of the World Series. You can see all the reactions from Dodgers and the Blue Jays podcast on the big hits, the big losses, and what's going on with George Springer. So, guys, we will see you tomorrow, and thank you for making us your first listen every day. Go Astros.